Imagine standing on a hill in Pennsylvania in July 1863. The air is thick with tension, the ground trembles with cannon fire, and the fate of a divided nation hangs by a thread. This is Gettysburg, the bloodiest clash in American history and the moment when the Civil War's tide began to shift. But how did we get here? Why did this sleepy town become the stage for such monumental events? And most importantly, why is Gettysburg remembered as the turning point of a brutal conflict that tore a nation apart? To answer that, we need to rewind. By 1863, the Civil War had raged for 2 relentless years. The Confederacy, led by General Robert E. Lee, was riding high after victories in Virginia. Confidence was soaring, and Lee decided to take the fight to northern soil, a bold gamble that could change everything. What unfolded over 3 sweltering days in Gettysburg wasn't just another battle. It was a showdown that determined the very survival of the Union. So, buckle up as we dive deep into the epic clash that reshaped American history. The year is 1863. The Civil War had already left deep scars on the American landscape. Battles like Antietam and Fredericksburg painted the fields red, and neither side showed signs of relenting. In the South, General Robert E. Lee emerged as a tactical genius, leading the Confederate Army to victory after victory. His forces were confident, perhaps even unstoppable. But Lee had a bold vision: to strike a decisive blow on northern soil. The goal wasn't just to win another battle, it was to demoralize the Union, sway public opinion against the war, and pressure President Abraham Lincoln into negotiating peace. And so, with his Army of Northern Virginia, Lee marched his troops northward in the summer of 1863. Meanwhile, the Union Army, freshly reorganized under General George Meade, was determined to halt Lee's advance. Meade, a man thrust into command just days before the battle, had the weight of an entire nation on his shoulders. His mission was clear: stop Lee at all costs. The two armies, nearly 160,000 soldiers combined, were on a collision course. And their paths would cross in the quiet town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a place that would soon become synonymous with sacrifice and destiny. It was July 1, 1863. Confederate forces, advancing in search of supplies, encountered Union cavalry west of Gettysburg. What began as a skirmish quickly escalated into a full-scale battle as reinforcements poured in. Thousands of soldiers rushing into position, muskets blazing, and artillery booming across the fields. The Confederate forces gained ground, pushing Union troops back through the streets of Gettysburg. By the end of the day, it seemed the Confederates held the upper hand. But this was just the beginning. The Union forces regrouped on high ground south of town, forming a strong defensive line along Cemetery Hill, Culp's Hill, and Cemetery Ridge. This elevated position would prove critical in the days to come. Would Lee capitalize on his early success, or would the Union's defensive stand turn the tide? Day 1 was over, but the real battle had just begun. July 2nd dawned with tension in the air. Both armies had fortified their positions overnight, and Lee was ready to strike. His plan? To attack the Union flanks and roll up their defensive line like a collapsing wall. The fighting on Day 2 was nothing short of ferocious. Names like Little Round Top, Devil's Den, and the Peach Orchard became etched in history. Little Round Top. Union forces, led by Colonel Joshua Chamberlain, held this rocky hilltop against relentless Confederate assaults. Outnumbered and nearly out of ammunition, Chamberlain ordered a daring bayonet charge that drove the Confederates back. Devil's Den. A chaotic melee unfolded among the boulders, with neither side willing to give an inch. The ground here became a brutal testament to the cost of war. By the end of Day 2, the Union line had bent but not broken. The Confederates suffered heavy losses, and Lee's plan to outflank the Union had failed. July 3rd would decide everything. Lee believed that a direct assault on the Union center could break their line and secure victory. It was a gamble of epic proportions. Lee ordered 12,500 Confederate soldiers to march across an open field towards the Union position on Cemetery Ridge. This assault, known as Pickett's Charge, was a spectacle of courage and tragedy. A mile-long line of Confederate troops advanced under withering Union artillery fire. The ground shook with the roar of cannons, and the air filled with the screams of the wounded. As the Confederates neared the Union line, they faced a devastating barrage of rifle fire. The charge faltered, and the Confederates were forced to retreat in chaos. Pickett's charge marked the end of the battle. Lee's army, battered and demoralized, began its retreat to Virginia. The Union had held, and Gettysburg was won. The cost of Gettysburg was staggering. Nearly 51,000 soldiers were killed, wounded, or missing. The battlefield became a grim reminder of the war's human toll. For the Union, Gettysburg was a much-needed triumph. It bolstered morale and proved that Lee's army was not invincible. The Confederacy, on the other hand, would never fully recover from the defeat. A few months later, President Lincoln visited Gettysburg to dedicate a cemetery for the fallen. His speech, the Gettysburg Address, captured the essence of the battle's significance and reaffirmed the Union's commitment to preserving the nation. The Battle of Gettysburg was far more than just a tactical victory for the Union. It was a seismic shift in the course of the Civil War. Before Gettysburg, the Confederate Army appeared unstoppable. General Robert E. Lee had marched his forces to triumph after triumph, instilling fear and doubt in the hearts of Union supporters. Gettysburg shattered that aura of invincibility. For the first time, the Confederacy's grand ambitions to carry the war into the North and secure foreign recognition were decisively thwarted. This wasn't just about halting an invasion, it was about preserving the very foundation of the United States. The victory solidified the Union's ability to counter Confederate offensives and re-established hope that the rebellion could be suppressed. For the Confederacy, the defeat marked the beginning of a long and inevitable decline. Their losses, both in manpower and morale, were irreplaceable. Gettysburg was a crossroads where the momentum of the war shifted irreversibly. Gettysburg's significance extends far beyond its role in the Civil War. After the battle, efforts to honor the fallen and preserve the land began almost immediately. The Gettysburg National Cemetery was established in 1863, and it was here that President Abraham Lincoln delivered his iconic Gettysburg Address. In just 272 words, Lincoln reframed the war's purpose, emphasizing liberty, equality, and a new birth of freedom. Today, the Gettysburg National Military Park preserves over 6,000 acres of this hallowed ground. Walking these fields, visitors can trace the movements of soldiers, stand on the ridges that changed history, and feel the weight of what happened there. Monuments and markers honor the bravery and sacrifice of those who fought on both sides, creating a space for reflection and education. The park is more than a historical site. It's a testament to the enduring importance of remembering our past. Millions visit each year, from schoolchildren learning about the Civil War for the first time to history enthusiasts seeking deeper understanding. The preservation of Gettysburg ensures that future generations can stand where history unfolded and draw lessons from its legacy. Gettysburg also serves as a powerful symbol of sacrifice and the cost of division. The battle's staggering casualties, nearly 51,000 soldiers killed, wounded, or missing, underscore the immense human toll of war. It's a reminder that the freedoms and unity we often take for granted were earned through immense struggle and loss. The battlefield is dotted with monuments commemorating regiments, brigades, and individuals who fought with extraordinary bravery. Some are grand and imposing, like the Pennsylvania State Memorial, while others are simple but deeply moving, such as the monument to the 20th Maine Infantry. Together, they tell a story of courage, resilience, and the determination to fight for a cause greater than oneself. The legacy of Gettysburg is not confined to the history books or the battlefield. It offers enduring lessons for modern society. The battle reminds us of the dangers of division and the devastating consequences of unresolved conflict. It teaches us the value of perseverance, leadership, and unity in the face of overwhelming odds. Lincoln's words resonate as strongly today as they did in 1863. That government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Gettysburg was not just a battle for territory. It was a battle for the ideals that define a nation. As we reflect on Gettysburg, we see more than a clash of armies. we see a defining moment that shaped the trajectory of a nation. The bravery, strategy, and sacrifice displayed on those fields remind us of the cost of our freedoms and the strength of our shared identity. Gettysburg was where the tide of the Civil War turned, but it is also where a divided nation began to find its way back toward unity. Its legacy endures not just in monuments and preserved landscapes but in the hearts and minds of those who carry its lessons forward. The echoes of Gettysburg remind us of our shared past and inspire us to build a better future, united by the principles for which so many gave their lives.